I decided rather than leave a post on Brandon's wall about how much I missed him and how much of a great guy he is, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to talk. I wanted to reminisce. Bear with me, as this is my brother's bedroom. It's a total mess, but I digress. Um, Brandon, I grew up with Brandon. I knew him for about 20 years. Um, I first met him through his brother Russell because we were in first grade together, and my distinct memory of Brandon when he was little was that he seemed to like running around the house naked, which of course if he was here he'd be like never happened. But Russell and I both agree. Um, it's funny when I think about it because Russell and Brandon are so much. They're like two halves of the same coin. Uh, one one part of the personality is like sort of flipped through the other. Like Russell's very introverted, um, and Brandon isn't. Like in general, like when Russell's around friends, he's not that way. But um, one is obnoxious. One is obnoxious deliberately and takes great pride in doing it. That would be Russell, by the way. Um, um, one had a good reputation, the other one didn't. Russell ruined it for Brandon when he came back in school, or when he went through the classes that Russell had gone through, like band. Mr. Caperton really didn't like Brandon. He had a bad impression of him. Um, what else? I think I would go. I sort of went through periods where I would go from one of them to the other with hanging out and that sort of thing. When Russell was with his girlfriend from hell, Bonnie, I hung out with Brandon more. And nice thing about Brandon is you really could like talk to him. You could really open up to him, and he'd be open to you too, which is something I've always had a hard time with Russell. And I consider them both my brothers, albeit idiot brothers. But I do love them, and I've so much of my life has been around them that uh, they're like family to me. Brandon and oh boy, he was never really much of a spiritual person. Like at least, I mean, we had conversations, and they weren't ever particularly. We didn't really go into it too much. Um, Obviously, I don't know his heart, so that might have been something that was just very personal and very private of him. I have no idea. Um, Maybe he was more open to other people about that. Um, but the nice thing was that even though he didn't come off as particularly religious or anything like that, he was always really respectful about it with uh, with me and saying other people, um, which can't be said for a lot of people, unfortunately. Um, Brandon, I loved playing video games with him. It was always really fun. He loved watching me, which I always thought was kind of funny. He just liked watching me play video games. And I remember he used to be addicted to He used to be addicted to Counter Strike and World of Warcraft. I kid you not, he would he would plan his life around these things. Like if there was a plan, if there was something going on, he would not leave the computer. He's like, "Oh, I got a raid today," or you really literally had to pry him off of the computer just to have him do something. He was just really. I remember he told me one time that uh, he had had an opportunity to. I don't know if it was like a date or something with a girl he knew. Her name's Brianna, and he didn't do it. He didn't go out with her or whatever because he had a raid that day, and I wanted to throttle him because he's a huge idiot for doing that. um, Sorry about that. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Um, where did I leave off? Well, video games, turning down a date or whatever it was. Um, I was really surprised at like when I would visit him in high school. Like I was really surprised at how really like popular he was with people. I mean, he's nice guy, granted, um, but I was always surprised just by like the level of so many people that like really really liked him, like teachers and stuff like that, and it was strange. It was completely out of left field for me. I never would have anticipated it. Probably because of Russell. I figured because I hadn't really been exposed to Brandon in school all that much up until high school. Um, yeah, it was really weird. Um, he'd always wear black for some reason. I never understood that. He always wore black and black pants. I never understood that. Um, I can remember we had this ongoing game, and I don't remember when we started doing it, but we quote like I'd find a quote from a movie, and it would be like a really obscure quote, but it would be a movie that they would have, and he'd have to guess what it was from. And this went on for we did this for years. We just picked different movies or whatever, and he would do it sometimes. Um, and we just had certain quotes that we would frequently say to each other. Um, Certain jokes. We listened to Dane Cook a lot, so like whenever somebody would talk about use the phrase back in the day, one of us would fill it in with, which was a Wednesday, by the way. And we really liked Dane Cook. Well, I still like Dane Cook, but we would reference his jokes, quite frequently, and I still do. Brandon Brandon really, when he was with Rachel, and even when things didn't work out, um, he really he really he really loved her, and we had conversations about that a number of times. Um, about he had regrets. He had wished that he had done things differently, and he really wanted to get back in a relationship with her, and I think it was frustrating for him. Well, I know it was frustrating for him, and he'd go through periods where, you know, we'd talk about it, and you know, It's unfortunate. You could really tell though. So you meant the world to him. Hmm. The whole Speedway thing that that astonishes me that he would want so badly to work there, and he did. I think that was his first job, maybe his only job. I don't know. It's just funny that such a what most people would consider a very menial job. He absolutely loved working there, and yeah, obviously, he had a lot of um, a good rapport with the people there, and with customers. And I was really shocked when he got promoted. Like, and for one, I didn't think he'd want to do that because I figured more responsibilities, and two, I just I didn't see it happen. I'm glad that he did though. Um, those I was proud of him, which that's cheesy. I realize, but it I think it said something about his work ethic that that they trusted in him enough for something like that. That made me happy. Really do miss him. I find myself thinking about him a lot. Uh, Whenever something funny happens, or I hear a movie quote that that we used to say to one another, or if there was something online that I thought was funny, my first instinct would be to like send that to him, but then I'd remember, and it's still hard for me to. I don't. I don't think it's even uh, really fully hit me yet. I mean, I, I've shed my tears, but I don't know if I've felt the full weight of the whole thing. The nice thing, something that I'm really glad that that happened, that ended up being this way, because I would have been really angry at myself if it had been otherwise. But the last time I had saw Brandon, um, I had shown him something funny, and so the last thing I really saw him was smiling. And then we parted company. So I feel really blessed to have that last that last memory of him. I guess that's it. I love you, Brandon, and I really miss you, and I hope to see you again.